Hey everyone. So we're now on to some of the first parts of the stuffed cabbage plate. So this morning all I'm going to be doing is cooking off the cabbage leaves and seasoning up my ground meat mix for the stuffing I'm going to have. And later tonight I'll build the sauce, roll up the cabbages, and get it baked in a casserole dish. Right now to my left I got a pot of water going. I only got my small pot available, so there's two ways of doing cabbage. Like I could chuck this whole head in the hot, big, large pot of boiling water, and then as the leaves become tender, it'll actually be easy for me to pull it off from the head of cabbage. And as I keep removing leaves, it'll expose the leaves more inwards to the hot water more, and they'll get tender as well. And I'll just keep pulling until I feel like I no longer have leaves that are large enough to wrap any meat. So I've removed the outside leaves of this cabbage, but since I'm working with a small pot, I'll just be peeling away a leaf and adding it one at a time to the cabbage, like so. Oh, not this one, but yeah. And then for the ground meat mix, I got a pound of ground chicken, a pound of ground country sausage, salt and pepper as per usual, some onion powder, some Italian seasoning, some garlic powder, a little bit of parsley from earlier, and then my cooked up cauliflower rice. And the general rule for ground meat, for any like ground meat patties or meatloaf, anything like that, one large egg per pound of meat. I hear my water about to be coming to a boil, so I'm diggy. Water's finally at boil. I have cut a little V or a little square at the base of this cabbage, so there's an easy point for me to pull the leaves away without necessarily having to snap them. Or you don't have to do that, but just try and guarantee I have as much leaf as possible. Alright. So this pot isn't quite big enough. It's not the one I wanted. So what I'm going to do is a long process of rotating this and cooking one set of leaves at a time. So like one side will be cooked off while another side will take a bit. So I'll come back to this and I'll start mixing the meat in a second, because this one side will probably take like 3 minutes to get tender. Alright, so you follow me or I'm dragging you. This is just a simple mixed meat mixture. I cracked my 2 eggs in my bowl. I'm going to deposit all of my cauliflower rice. It's largely season it as you please. There's probably a teaspoon of onion powder for 2 pounds of meat. Maybe a tablespoon of Italian. The last of my garlic powder. That was like half a teaspoon. It's okay. There's gonna be garlic in the sauce. Salt. pepper, parsley. Come on, buddy. And finally, my packages. Of ground pork. And bird. And I got my gloved hand, and I'm just gonna get on in there. Just trying to get a nice homogeneous mixture. You don't want to see any more yellow from the egg. I also could have let this meat come up to room temperature a little bit more because it's a little cold. Now I'm not going to be pre-cooking any of this. This is all just going raw in the cabbage, and it'll be cooked all the way through in the casserole dish in the oven. So it kind of just gets, it's kind of just a steamed dumpling largely. But yeah, I got mixed chicken and pork because beef and pork is, or just beef is more traditional. But chicken is leaner, but I also just like the flavor of that pork provides. Alright. Let me wash my hands, show you what it looks like. Voila. And then I'm gonna try and find a container for this. Maybe hopefully I can get it, stuff this onto the container that the cauliflower rice was in, and set this aside for tonight. But in the meantime, I believe I have a leaf I can pull, because I just saw it detach itself from my cabbage. So I'm going to take you out, if I can. There we go, buddy. And it's a little broken, but that's okay. I can make this for a smaller roll at the end, because I'm going to remove this middle part here, because it will never, that'll be really firm throughout the whole baking process if that middle stem was there. Hey. You kind of just want this so it's limp. I'm going to set this aside on the plate to cool. And on repeat for quite a while. So I'm going to pause for a bit, and I'll just bring you back when I'm done with all the leaf aspect. Hey everyone, I'm going to be stopping boiling the cabbage soon, because it's up to you how small you want your cabbage rolls to be. So essentially what's going to happen is I'll probably get a couple more leaves out of this. The smaller leaves means you're going to have smaller cabbage rolls. So if they're all going in the same casserole dish, they'll end up having different cook times. Now you could keep going, but I'd recommend when you get to about halfway through the cabbage, which we are through now, we're getting towards its core, I would recommend that these leaves be separated to a different dish and used for a different set of cabbage rolls, because that way they'll all cook evenly, as opposed to using these leaves combined with the big ones. And then you'll have cabbage rolls that are overcooked on one side and undercooked on the other. So yeah, so I'm going to be stopping soon. But I got about a dozen or so leaves, which is a lot of rolls. I'm going to let these cool. I'm going to put these away. And then I'll be back later tonight to make the sauce and to build the cabbage casserole. Alright. Well, I will see y'all later. Hey everyone. So we're at the final stage of the cabbage rolls. So I'm going to add the last ingredients. There's the other half of the garlic I'm going to use. This is going to go into the sauce. I got some crushed tomato, which is about on par with the thickness of tomato puree. I got diced tomato for a little texture. Some salt and pepper. I got the same loose pack of thyme and rosemary I've been working with a couple weeks. I'm going to try and use up a bit more of this today. Thyme, rosemary, and some sage. I have my meat mix from earlier. Italian seasoning onion powder. That's going in the sauce. I got my cabbages, which I got to destem. And yeah, and then the baking dish. So first we'll do the vegetable products before we do anything with the meat. To roll out the little cabbage rolls. We're gonna destem these cabbage leaves I got. So you see this big thick part, you can actually see with the light pretty well. I'm going to remove that because that will not get done in your baking dish, and then your meat will be just rolled up in what remains. So I'm going to set that aside for now, and you're just going to repeat this with all your leaves. You want to make sure you want to have a big enough portion of your leaf that you can tuck the meat over the split parts. So I'm going to pause the video for a second because you don't need to watch me do this. I'll just show you. I'll just come back later after we're moving at the next stage. Hey everyone, I'm back. I had just finished destemming all my cabbage leaves. So I'll come back to the stuffing part in a second. Uh-oh. I had a structural integrity issue with one of them. That's okay. Next part, I'm going to dissect this garlic and this thyme quickly. I got a pot going over there with some with a little dab of butter. It's been really low, so I'll be able to chop this up before I get it in here. Okay, garlic is relatively flat. Wait for a second. I'm gonna break out a little bit of these herbs here. I'm gonna use this last sprig of rosemary. I'll use this sage too, why not? And I'll call it there after this today for that little pack of herbs. Oh, I hear the butter going. I'm going to go turn off the heat before it burns. Peeling rosemary is always the easiest. Give this a quick chop-a-roo. And then I also brought back out that parsley I've been working with this whole time. It's going to go into the sauce as well. Okay, we're going to head on over here. Got this little pot for my sauce. Turn the heat back on until I get the butter to a little sizzle again. Gonna open up my can of tomato product over here. I also might incorporate some chicken stock into this for flavor. Now your sizzle. Get this going in there quickly. I'm just tossing in these herbs and garlic. Just get a little bit of color on them before I add in the tomato product. Make that nice and fragrant. Let that go for a couple seconds. Garlic, you don't want to go too long. There's big chunks of garlic, so maybe 30 seconds to a minute is all they'll need. I can definitely smell the sage and the thyme right now. That's a hearty sizzle. Go ahead and dump that tomato product in here. And that is crushed tomato. I'm going to keep that can because I might use that can for. Uh-oh. Didn't open. My dice can didn't open well. Gotta try and revise that. Oh. There we go. You never want to try and force a can lid open. That is an easy way to get yourself a nasty, super duper paper cut. This sauce is going to be used for the layering of the dish. It's going to be a bottom layer of the casserole dish to protect the cabbage from burning and sticking, and then the top layer as well is going to get a little bit of browning for flavor and to keep the cabbage moist. Alright. There is seasoning. I can crank up the heat. Lots of black pepper. I'm also going to get this covered in a second because nothing pops more than tomato sauce. Good sprinkle of Italian and some onion powder. I didn't want to use fresh onion in this case because I kind of didn't want the onions to disrupt the texture. Actually, normal tradition doesn't even have any diced tomatoes. It's just sauce. So yeah. But anyways, I'll let that do its thing for a second. And in the meantime, I'm going to start making some balls or meat rolls. Here is my meat from earlier. It kind of shapes pretty easily. I have to judge based on each cabbage leaf how well it's going to fit. But here's a leaf. You see the split end here? You want that to touch the meat on the inside layer, and then you want the whole part of the leaf to fully encapsulate the little log. That way, and make sure the split part is seam side down, and there you go. So yeah. So you don't need to watch me do this the whole time. So like I've done before, I'm gonna pause this, get it done, and then show you what it looks like at the end. Right now I'm just gonna form a bunch of logs. Let me go wash my hands so I can turn my video off. Yeah. Hello. So everything is about ready to go, just to build the casseroles. So sauce here is at my desired consistency. Here's all my rolls, and here is a greased up casserole dish and a loose piece of ground meat, which I will clean up in a moment. But first, you're going to take about 2 spoonfuls. This is like a 13-inch casserole dish. And then you're going to spread that along the bottom. My spatula sink. That's okay. My hands are going to get dirty for this whole process. And I wouldn't recommend saving any excess sauce you have, because it's going to be possibly cross-contaminated with the ground meat. And then you're just going to line them up in the baking dish. Try to get that split open seam down. Now this is a relatively quick bake. I would imagine these are about 20-ish minutes. So I'm going to take a risk and not cover these. It's only in a 350-degree oven, so it's not going to brown too much. So there they are, all lined up. A little bit of sauce here. A little bit of sauce there. Try and spread it evenly before you need to get your spatula involved. wash my hands before I show you this and pop it in the oven. And this is a raw, keto-friendly stuffed cabbage with the main primary substitute being cauliflower rice in place of uncooked parboiled rice. So this is gonna go in my oven at 350 degrees for about 20 minutes, and I will temp these out. This is ground chicken and pork, so that needs to come to 165 at the center of one of these rolls. And I'll be back in a bit. Hello everyone, I'm back. I'm here to show you the final product of what this looks like. This just came out of the oven. This is about a dozen stuffed cabbages and a homemade tomato sauce. And that was like 2 pounds of ground meat. And I'm about to get one out and break it open for you guys so you can see what it looks like on the inside, because I am curious myself. So it holds together pretty well so far. It hasn't fallen apart yet. Let's see if the spoon's tender enough to break through. And it is. About right in half. And the ball is pretty tight on the inside. It's not loose as I was afraid of. So yeah, that is a keto-friendly stuffed cabbage with chicken and pork and cauliflower rice with a homemade tomato sauce. And yeah, all right. I will see y'all in a week or so with another recipe.